So are you a golfer who gets driver in play but really feels like they leave a lot of yardage on the table? Well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to deliver the club better, swinging at exactly the same speed, and hit the ball over 40 yards further. Right, so that's a claim, isn't it? Over 40 yards further without swinging the golf club any quicker. And any of you guys who've watched my videos, I'll be the first to say that one of the key ingredients to hitting the ball further is more club head speed. But the key is if you can deliver the club correctly, and like a lot of the long drivers in the world do, without picking up any club head speed, you could pick up 40, 50, maybe even 60 yards extra off the tee, and that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Right, so like I said in the introduction, are you one of those golfers who gets the ball in play and drives the ball a decent distance, but feels like you really give up a lot of yardage off the tee? So this could be a fairly typical drive for you. It's nice and accurate, it's in play, it's a decent strike. My club head speed was 103 mile an hour, but the ball's only carried 184 yards and rolled out 242, which is a decent distance, but possibly you'd feel if you're swinging at that speed, you should be hitting the ball further. Now, that number on TrackMan, carry distance at 184 is 100% accurate. When the ball gets on the floor though, it is predictive, and certainly in the UK at the moment, with it being as cold and wet as it is, you wouldn't be getting out at 242 yards. You'd be carrying 184, and if you got to 200 there, you might be very, very lucky. So what we're going to talk about in today's video is by swinging at pretty much the same speed, we're going to have you hitting drives more like this. And we can see club head speed exactly the same, a much higher ball flight, and we suddenly see a carry distance at over 250 yards and a total at just under 280. So we've all heard of that comment about we need to hit up to get the ball to go maximum distance. And what I'm going to just show you now is those two drives, what the difference was, because there was no difference in club head speed, but what the difference in the delivery of the club was and why that golf ball went so much further. Right, so we can see on the first one, club head speed 103 mile an hour. So it was at 1 mile an hour slower, I'll give it that. But the low point of the golf swing was 5.6 inches ahead, and the club was moving down 3.6 degrees through impact. And then on the second shot, we saw 104 club head speed, but the low point was 2.6 inches behind, and the club was actually traveling up 2.4 degrees. So we know from studies with TrackMan and the data TrackMan have collected over the years, that if a golfer can get the club traveling up through impact, as opposed to down through impact, as long as everything else remains equal, the club traveling up will make the ball go further through the air with lower backspin, which will then run out more. So the first mistake I see golfers make is that they tee the ball too low. And I think most golfers tee the ball low because at some point they have teed the ball up in the air, and when they've made a swing, they've hit the ball off the top of the club, it pops up in the air, goes like a lob wedge, and leaves a horrible mark on top of the club. Now, the problem with that is I think a lot of golfers then misdiagnose what they've done wrong. They think the ball's been teed too high, so they actually move the ball lower. Whereas actually what's causing that shot is they're getting the low point after the golf ball, the club's traveling down through impact, taking all the loft off the club and actually showing the top of the club head to the golf ball. And for nearly every other shot in golf when the ball's on the floor, the idea of getting your lowest point of your golf swing ahead of the golf ball is absolutely perfect because it gives that ball and then turf interaction, which is what we're looking for. But with driver, it's a little bit different, and that's why the driver swing itself can be a little different. We do want the low point behind the golf ball so that the club can travel up. But like I said, because most golfers do that, they tee the ball lower, and then as you tee the ball low, it's very hard to get the low point behind because you might top it, you could miss it, or certainly hit it very, very low off the club face. So all I'll see is that guys tee the ball down, kind of work out that if the ball's too far forward, they struggle to strike it, so the ball moves more and more towards the centre of the stance, and like I said, they can hit some very good shots. And it's nice and accurate, but with the ball only pitching 185 yards, for me, I can get my 6-iron to carry that far. Granted, it'll be a different trajectory, but I don't need a driver that flies the ball the same distance as a 6-iron. So the first change we're going to make is I'm using the Castle tees because they're preset and then there's no kind of fiddling with tee height. I was using white to begin with, so I'm going to go all the way up to orange, which for a lot of guys, and I do this in lessons, a lot of guys really, really worry about that tee height. But what if we said that tee height to start with is going to encourage you to get your low point behind by getting the middle of the club on the ball. You have to get the club moving up. And then we're going to make a couple of little adjustments at setup, which again are going to encourage that low point further behind. So the alterations we're going to make is we're going to move the ball further forward in the arc, so that the club should naturally be travelling further forward. So maybe opposite that lead shoulder would be good for a lot of guys. We're then going to put the top hand on the club and keep that trail hand, the bottom hand off, and then bring that in from the side. Now, because that hand is lower than the top hand, straight away that should create a little bit of shoulder tilt and a bit of spine tilt away. And if you want to exaggerate that spine tilt, just bump the hips forward a tiny bit, and we can see straight away there a very different setup position. Have a couple of practice swings. And even with my practice swings, I can see I'm now brushing the ground maybe 6 inches behind the golf ball. And if I maintain that in my golf swing, definitely the club's going to travel up as I hit it. And we've seen already, that's already going to pick me up some distance. Just depends how far behind and how much up we can get the club going. Now, I know a lot of golfers will do this at setup, but they don't change the tee height. And my worry with the tee height is if you're teeing the ball low, might be really good at address, but you at impact get back to your old position and you just create the same impact positions and delivery, therefore the shots are no better. So we've had a couple of practice swings. We're now going to go through that new setup routine. So ball further forward, top hand on, bottom hand underneath, bump the hips towards the target just a tiny bit, and let's make a swing. A completely different trajectory. Quite similar low point to the one before. 256 carry and 292 total. Okay, so probably for most of us, we'll just stop at that one. But I always like to push it and see how exaggerated I can get behind. So I'm going to exaggerate the ball position a little bit further. Top hand on, bottom hand underneath, and again, bump the hips towards the target. Try and get that low point a long way behind. So club head speed, about the same. Low point further back, but I lost my strike a touch, and that cost me a little bit of distance. But you could see there, if I can control that low point to be behind and get the club travelling up, the pickup in distance is massive. Right then, so hopefully one little change to the tee height and then a couple of little tweaks to your setup to encourage you to get the low point of your golf swing behind the golf ball instead of ahead of the golf ball. And you could see there the transformation in my driving distance is absolutely game changing. There isn't a golfer in the world who wouldn't take that extra distance and turn that into better scores because the ball's still in play. I'm not talking about sacrificing accuracy. I'm talking about delivering the club more efficiently so that whatever speed you swing at, you absolutely maximize your driving distances. And if nothing else, isn't it more fun hitting your drives longer than ever before? So guys, hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, like it and share it, comment below and I'll get back to as many people as I can. If you have enjoyed today's content and you don't currently subscribe, please consider clicking the button below. Remember to ring the notification bell, then you find out whenever I drop a new video. Follow me on all my social media platforms, all under Ali Taylor Golf. Hopefully catch up with some of you guys down here soon. Stay in contact.